Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Thomas Jefferson said, "If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done." Benjamin Franklin said, "Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning." Basically, get off your duff, get to working, you've got dreams, you've got goals, you've got to do what it takes to get them. Like, subscribe, comment, show what your opinion is. Let me know if you like what you've seen. And I thank you for your support. When I was in the Marine Corps, I met a feller that his parents had been born in Mexico and had come legally to the United States. They had come up here, started a trucking business, and my buddy had been born here. He'd gone down to Mexico several times, but this was the first time I'd ever met somebody with that kind of worldly experience because, well, being a redneck from East Tennessee, other than a fella that had been the son of Marines who had grown up in Guantanamo Bay, and one of the guys that I went to school with, his parents were from India. I didn't have a lot of experience with folks with that kind of background. He got to talking to me about the southern border one day because that was a topic that was going on at the time. This was back in the mid-90s. And he told me, he said, "I don't really trust somebody who comes up here illegally." He said, "You got three types that come up here illegally." He said, "You got the ones that don't want to wait around for legal like my parents did," he said. He said, "You got the kind that are coming up here because they're on the run from the law down in Mexico." And he said, "You've got the kind that are conned into coming up here." Well, over the years, I figured out, talking to folks that had come up here illegally, this was the case. Still was the case. And this is 2024, and folks that I talk to still say the same thing. Well, there have been three recent cases that the Department of Justice has done that I think makes me realize just how bad things are still down there. You hear it on the news and everything like that, but actually knowing folks that have dealt with that, and how my friends' parents, when they had cartel or other criminals come to them to try to get them to ship stuff up here illegally, how they'd go to the cops. Because he made the comment one time that was one of the beautiful things about coming up here to the United States. When criminals approached them, they could go to the cops. They couldn't do that down in Mexico. Down in Mexico, the cops were pretty corrupt. And listening to their stories and reading the stories that have been put up here, and I'm going to read them to you. We're going to get you thinking about that. But let's just go into how bad things are down there and why more and more people need to realize that that border needs to be protected. The first press release from DOJ, Jesus Ernesto Dessens-Romero, he was 28, from Agua Prieta, Sonora, Mexico, was sentenced by U.S. District Judge John Hinderracher. He was found guilty of multiple alien smuggling offenses by a jury, including conspiracy to transport and transportation of illegal aliens for profit and bringing in illegal aliens to the United States for profit. They also found that he placed a human life in jeopardy during and in relation to these offenses. Now, what happened was on February 15th, 2021, the 23-year-old sister, there was a 23, a 20, and a 17-year-old, three sisters, and a family friend age 16 that this Dessens-Romero brought up. But the 23-year-old sister got in significant physical distress. She was unable to eat, walk, follow simple commands. So they got her to a roadway to have her spotted. And but he didn't call emergency services for this young woman. Instead, when he located cell phone reception at higher ground, he called a transnational criminal smuggling organization. Then he led the rest of the group to Sierra Vista, where they were picked up by unidentified co-conspirators and transported further into the United States. Family of the woman left behind contacted authorities on February 16th, reported a missing person. They did U.S. Border Patrol and military officials from Fort Hawacha, Cochise County Sheriff's Department also, and Homeland Security investigations. She was not located. During this time, Dessens-Romero contacted surviving sisters on behalf of the smuggling organizations to try to convince them to remove a missing person social media post. There was a group that locates missing migrants to keep looking. They finally located skeletal remains in an isolated area in the mountains near the army base. And it was confirmed that this was the missing 23-year-old. I mean, this is sickening on so many levels. Thankfully, this guy was eventually caught. He was caught in Tennessee by the Tennessee Highway Patrol, and he was transporting two illegals then as well. This is what these people go through because we leave this border open. Seriously. We leave the border open, and this is what we force these people to go through. Now, here's another thing right here. This is a case of they got some Mexico-based drug cartel leaders indicted and sanctioned. Rodolfo Maldonado Bustos, known as Don Jose, and Euclides Camacho Goycochea, also known as El Quiles, or Quies, who occupy leadership roles in the La Nueva Familia, Mexicana drug cartel, were charged by federal grand jury with conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute heroin and conspiracy to import heroin into the United States. These cartel members allegedly imported massive amounts of heroin from Mexico to the Atlanta area and elsewhere in the U.S., according to U.S. Attorney Ryan K. Buchanan for the Northern District of Georgia. Federal indictments, in conjunction with recent imposition of OFAC sanctions, send a strong message that our office, in coordination with our law enforcement partners, will relentlessly investigate, prosecute, and defund individuals around the globe who import deadly drugs into our communities. They are also seeking the IRS after them. Oh, I'd be more worried about the IRS than I would be about anybody else in this case. But this Maldonado Bustos fella allegedly directed the harvesting of gum from opium fields, procured chemicals to process the gum into heroin, and supplied Camacho Goycochea and other co-conspirators in Mexico with heroin to import into the cities in the United States, including Atlanta and Houston. This is what's going on at the border. I guess that the Democrats have been wanting this to be allowed because they're the ones that continuously say, no, you can't shut down the border. You can't do anything about it. Yes, drugs are going to come up here. They're going to find new and inventive ways. But it would seem to me that you cannot continuously allow this to happen. And that's what's going on. And there's a third piece here to talk about. But now, here's what the Democrats also do. The Justice Department announced today that they had secured a settlement agreement with E-Team Incorporated, an online staffing agency which provides services to companies throughout the U.S. and around the world. It's claiming that E-Team discriminated against non-U.S. citizens with permission to work in the United States by excluding them from job opportunities based on their citizenship and immigration status. Now, here's the thing. We keep talking about how people are needing work. And according to Yahoo Finance, literally just yesterday, the unemployment rate is just 0.1% from causing a major headache for the Fed. That's how bad the economy is right now. And so we've got a company that is working to make sure that Americans get a job over people who aren't American. And so you've got a company getting fined for this. They're having to pay $232,500 in civil penalties because they cared more about Americans getting jobs. Now, okay, so these folks are they supposedly have permission to work here, but it makes me wonder why that it became such a big deal. Why would they not be protecting the U.S. citizens? Why do we have so many people? Now, mind you, we've got a lot of Americans working, but what kind of jobs are they working? What kind of businesses are we dealing with anymore? So, we do need more Americans working. And it's getting ridiculous that this is what's going on in this company, or in this country, and with this company in particular. I am glad that E-Team took a stand, and I find it pathetic that the Justice Department did this to them. Now look, I am well aware that there's a lot of problems down there in Mexico because of the cartels. We have problems up here because of the cartels just as well. And I'm not just talking about the drugs. They send kidnap gangs up here. They run the coyotes that Dessens-Romero fellow was. We've got terrorists crossing that border. But it comes to a point where we need to go, hey, let's protect the citizens of this country from the drugs, from the criminals. And people go, well, they're not breaking any laws. Yes, they are. Coming up here, they're breaking the law. It's illegal for them to come up here. If you don't like it, then change the law. Number two, most of those folks that come up here illegally are finding ways to steal identities, or they're buying identities. Most times, 9 times out of 10, they're buying identities from somebody who's stolen them. So to work, they're using fake IDs. They've stolen identities, which is another felony. The folks that are being conned into coming up here are being forced into prostitution. They're being forced into sweatshops. They're being forced into bad jobs. Then you have the people that are coming up here that are criminals. I've discussed this before. about some of these criminals. Some of these folks are coming up here and they're working hard. I will give them that. Some of them are willing to work hard. But until we can guarantee that border, these people are coming up here and being taken advantage of, one. Two, some of them are taking advantage of us. And three, this is being used as a way to harm this country with the terrorists, with the criminals, with something that's going on with the Chinese that is highly questionable in and of itself. There are Russian military age folks coming into this country. Seriously, there comes a point where we need to stop allowing this to happen. I don't have a problem with Hispanic folks that are Mexican, Guatemalan, El Salvadoran, South American, from any number of those countries, and the other Central American countries. I don't mind them coming up here. I went to college with the fella that was from Guatemala, and me and him were decent friends. I liked him. I've had many friends that were Mexican. I've had friends that were from other Hispanic nations. I don't have a problem with them. What I have a problem with is the criminality that's associated with that border being kept open. I don't want to see young women being forced into prostitution. I don't want to continuously hear about this drug situation that we could gain control of. We've got to get control of our own drug addiction problem here in the United States, and it ain't being helped by the fact that we have an open border that they continuously push up here. And then there's the fact of that the people that have property along the border, many of them are farmers, ranchers, whatnot, that are just good, common people that are getting fed up with their property being trampled on. This nation was founded with property rights as one of the cornerstones of freedom. And those people do not deserve to have to deal with the criminals that they're dealing with. I don't like hearing about this all the time. We don't need to protect them. We need to get them out of the country and get the situation cleared up and fixed. And then we can figure out how to let them up here legally. If we have to change the law, guess what? Talk to your congressperson. These are not refugees. These are people that are breaking the law. And the amount of laws that are being broken because of this needs to be answered. But hey, this is Paul, Redneck Thinker. Y'all think about this and y'all have a good day now. Bye.